This is the Creative Mindset Podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Rusakis. Today, we're here with my special guest, Jamie Fine. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Buddy, thanks for having me.
Jamie, my first question.
I'm ready.
Jamie, are you fine?
Yeah, I'm fine. I can say. I feel insecure saying that.
And just so anybody is wondering, we do have Jasper here today. Jasper's going to roll in and out as he pleases.
Yeah, he owns the place. He's the prince.
He is. Prince Charming.
Prince Charming.
So, Jamie.
Yeah, buddy.
What's new?
I'm just living the dream.
Yeah.
Somebody's dream.
Yeah. The Ottawa sweetheart dream.
I don't know if I'm Ottawa's sweetheart per se. But
I bet you Atlantis Morissette would actually be fucking pissed.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Jesus. I hope this only gets 2 views so that she doesn't hear that. I was like, who the hell is this?
If this makes E-Talk this week, there's going to be a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
Mainly to you, though.
Yeah. What do you mean? You're the one who said it.
That's true. That's true.
Can we swear on this podcast?
We can swear on this podcast.
Fuck yeah. Right here.
Oh, yeah. Crack this.
This is a way to start.
Again, guys, we're not sponsored by Bubbly yet. So in protest, we are drinking Ahas until they sponsor us. I imagine we will need a million subs for that to happen.
For sure, but also probably a way to get Bubbly on board isn't to be passive-aggressive drinking Aha. Do you think that's why they called it that?
Cheers. I think it's probably because they thought they had a good idea, and they're like, aha.
Whoa. This podcast completely just changed.
Yeah. We're just going to bash seltzer drinks until, we hit the 1 hour mark.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, Jamie, I think you have a very interesting, trajectory of your success and how you've reached where you are now, starting with The Launch, which was a Canadian TV show focusing on performance art,
and
right?
writing, yeah.
And you entered that with Elijah Wood, correct? And won that competition.
Pretty much.
And I can imagine how insane it got after that moment.
Yeah, pretty quickly.
Take me through that.
I think, I had a very different experience than other people on that show. I had a very different experience than my co-artists. I think, for me, The Launch wasn't something I ever saw myself doing. It wasn't something that I ever really wanted to do in the first place. And a lot of people say, like, you guys got your start off The Launch. And to us, or to me at least, we had quite a bit of success before The Launch. And admittedly, it was right before it happened. And that by the time The Launch kind of came to be, the question I had was, like, do we really need to do this? And, like, what's the point kind of thing? But yeah, as soon as that happened, and you got to remember, we filmed it in September and it came out in January. So our episode at least. So we had kind of 4 months of knowing what had happened. We got a lot of NDAs signed, which we probably shouldn't have done. But we were like, hey, can we tell you a secret? You just got to sign this NDA. And then it came out, and honestly, like, I think there was a really emotional, overwhelming aspect to it.
Right.
Because we were, all pun intended, launched into it really, really quickly, and it was a really hurry up and then wait, and then all at once.
Right.
And it was really overwhelming, I would say.
Yeah, because, and I've publicly said this before, even with myself, my whole goal is to have some legacy, some fame to whatever I do, right? Yeah. And I even remember as a kid, PD days, house to myself, fucking just going around singing to songs really loud and, like, wishing for that moment to happen. Can you talk about what it was like to finally have people paying attention to the music you were creating, and maybe even speak to the fact that there's a lot more that happens than just the good stuff from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Bubba. Do you want to answer this question for me? Yes. I I think it's a euphoric feeling to have this initial like, oh, okay, like people are listening, especially because I'm such an emotional writer, right? So what I have to say is what I'm going through. So for people to either A, just listen to it, but B, connect with it, especially on an emotional level, that's a pretty euphoric feeling, especially being on stage and like watching people feed off of your energy or what you're going through. Of course, there's really tough parts attached to it, whether it's lifestyle. It's pretty draining, to constantly be giving off a lot of energy. And it's not necessarily that you're not getting it back, but you might not be getting it back as much as you're giving. And so it never really equals itself or balances itself out.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause
Especially for me.
for every like that you have two people that are talking shit.
Oh God, yeah, and like you can't, and that's with everything, right? You know what? It's interesting. I kind of professionally entered this industry when I'm gonna say 23, 24.
Okay.
I'm 28 now, and I look at everything that's happened in the last few years. I grew up before I entered this industry. You know what I mean? Like I figured out who I was.
Jasper's
Just causing
Jasper's
a
getting into
ruckus.
trouble.
Jasper Ellis, fine. Come here, please. This is dog momming at its finest.
I love this though. I hope this makes the cut.
It better.
If the editor that's involved in this, shout out to Ruv. If you
Ruv.
cut this, I'm coming after you.
Ruv, get this. I'm telling you.
All right. Back to the highs and lows.
So
right?
and I was saying that, like, I grew up before I entered this industry. I figured out who I was. I got my tough skin. I was so, like, not even to get dark and depressing, but I was so heavily bullied when I was a kid that I learned kind of early on in high school, like if you don't like me, then, like, no worries. I probably don't want to be part of your life either. And it doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing of, like, oh man, like somebody said something poor about me. Like, if Kim Kardashian is talked shit about on the internet, like, probably I can't win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly,
like,
right?
If Kim Kardashian is called, like, ugly and this and that and the other, I'm like, well, I can only imagine.
Well, it's interesting though, because we've talked a lot about self-doubt on the show, and for me, where my self-doubt comes from is Instagram.
Yeah.
And thinking about what I'm going to post and maybe not even posting it. Do you have these thoughts with the music that you're creating? Is it good enough? Is it ready to release? Are people going to notice the flaws in my tracks?
I think every artist at some point gets there, and if you don't, then you're outrageously lucky, and probably it's few and far in between you'll find somebody like that. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I got from a couple people, one of them was Chad Kroger, not to name drop, but he's such an incredible writer. Chad, my best friend, Chad. No, but like...
Look at this photograph!
Yeah. If somebody can hyperimpose
a
thing there, okay, sick.
It's going to be a picture of you and I, by the way.
I better. I think for me, when Chad... he's such an incredible writer, and he's a huge inspiration for me on the writing front. And what he said is, when the faucet turns on, nothing should allow you to turn it off. Nothing should distract you. And that taught me about the songwriting process. And the second best piece of advice, maybe not best, but high up there in terms of great advice that I've gotten, is from this guy, London Summers, who's actually from Ottawa as well. And he had said, you need to learn how to separate the creative from the business, which sounds really obvious and sounds really like, yeah, of course, but it's really hard to actually put that into practice in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
So for me, what I learned to do is be able to make a song and write a song, and then I worry about how I'm going to market it. And then I'm going to worry about this, that, and the other. But initially, what I want to do... Can you see this dog? Just a little grooming.
Yeah, I love it.
I learned how to, like, separate those things, and that made it, and that took a long time. Like, that took, like, years and years and years to, like, perfect.
Recently,
yeah,
probably,
like,
right?
only in the last year and a half. That's why I moved on to being a solo act. Is
That's
because
right,
I wanted to
because
do my
I think
thing.
that's what we're talking about, is the fact that, at one point, you were part of a group with Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
And not to be confused with the actor. I know that happens even on Google searches.
He's
but
Elijah Woods. The other
Woods,
one's
yeah,
Elijah Wood. You know what I
yeah,
mean? That's how you.
Woods,
That's how you make a difference.
I made a mistake.
Fired.
So, you go through the path of being signed with someone else. You both have equal decisions in the process of creation and the business aspect of the goings on of what you're going to become. Now you're a solo artist. I think there was probably a big transition there that took place.
For sure.
Could we get into that a bit? I know it's a bit of a messy subject, but at the end of the day, we all, respect one another, and I think we can talk about it.
For sure. And it's not, for me, it's as simple as this. Like, I'll never really, it's not, never, I'm never going to get into like the ins and outs of like every single thing that took place. The bottom line is that we had huge creative differences. I wanted to do things very differently than that entire team did. And if you were to ask them, they'd say the exact same thing, about me. And I think that that's like the respect part of like, oh, okay, like we're not going to fight this out to the end. This is when you let each other go kind of thing. And that's where I was at, that I saw a different part of this industry that I was in love with that I had let go of for a few years while working on that project. And I refused to kind of let it go anymore. I wanted to chase that again. And it's been this year and a half of learning all these things and kind of re-establishing me as an individual, which has been like the most exhilarating process of my life probably. And
it was your Beyonce moment, right?
My Beyonce moment.
You got to move on from Destiny's Child. You say, Kelly Rowland's Get Out of
Yeah,
Here.
yeah, we're a little bit less impressive, but yeah.
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 I mean, have you been sitting at the window using your sidekick to text people? You know what I'm talking about. We're going to bring that up. We're going to bring up that reference, by the way.
Throwback.
Now, you moved on from your management team, too.
Yeah.
And that's almost just as big as moving to a solo artist, because the direction of your management really can put you in positions that maybe you like or don't like, or agree with the music that you're doing or not agree with it, right? So you're with Universal now, which clap for you.
Thank you.
I think I would love to hear more about how Jamie Fine has grown in that last year and a half, from moving on from that stage in your life and going through the hardship, because there was hardship there, but still finding success, right?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that I'm the only person that can decide how successful I am, right? And I think that's really important, to let go of other people's. You look at what success is, and let's be honest here, the majority of it is ego.
Yeah,
that's how we
100%.
define success. I decided that if it's ego, which is yourself, why am I going to care what everybody else defines as success? And that was a really big lesson that I learned, so that I could chase things that meant something to me. I have very specific goals in this industry, and I won't ever sacrifice who I am to get there. My drummer, Darius, this is top there in lessons that I learned. How you come up matters. And that's something I took with me he told me that a year and a half, 2 years ago. And there's not one day that goes by that I don't think about that. And when I'm making decisions, I reference that. I'm like, okay, how you come up
really
matters.
interesting, yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like, it's simple, but it's.
Yeah, because, I think about even my path to where I am now, and there was certain points that I'm like, if I had changed that, it would have changed that, though, even though that I would have liked that to have been different, And, I don't regret those struggle points where, and this is the first time I'm going to say this publicly, but, there was a point when I was starting out, and I was in Toronto living in this shithole basement apartment, making next to nothing. And I was looking at the mirror and I was like, dude, like, if I don't make any money soon, like, am I going to end this? Like, I don't know what else I can do. What else am I going to do? And I think you've probably had those moments where, you're really down about what's going on.
Totally.
And it's like, does it come through on the music side afterwards, or is it expressed otherwise?
Once it moves from a place of anxiety, then I can turn it into music. I think most creatives most people in our position go through those times, right? And it is scary, and it gets really depressing, and the ups and downs are pretty crazy. I also think that's because I think the people that go through that are the people that are the least likely or the least willing to sell themselves short. And I think that is a great quality that we forget is a great quality.
Sure.
And in the moments when we're feeling those things, we're like, oh my God, yeah, like worst comes to worst, I guess, like I'll do my best, and worst comes to worst, I'll just end it. Like that's a dark sentence, right? That's a dark statement. But I don't think I've met one creative that hasn't gone through periods like that. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I could probably speak for both of us. There's nothing else in the world that makes us happier. This will make us crazy. Totally.
And that's just it, right? It's like once you're in the realm of creativity, it's like, what else in the world am I living for?
Yeah.
Other than to be creative, other than to produce, to, share my art.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great testament to you that you've been able to go through a process that isn't kind. The TV reality show music industry is a beast of its own. And if you look at that in terms of American Idol, you have one really big success story, Kelly Clarkson, and it's like, where are those other guys now? And I think it speaks to that type of venue of getting your start, of just, it's so crazy.
It's like, it's overwhelming to think about. I'm going to be honest, like this sounds so like blunt. I can't believe I'm in my industry saying this, but like I don't understand why music television exists. And I don't know why anybody applies anymore for it. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Like I think we're on it must be past 20 seasons now for American Idol.
Oh my God, yeah.
And yet we still aren't getting hit artists from it.
I think people are desperate. I think, you know what? I'm going to say this, and it seems like it's coming from a place of judgment, which I'm not intending it to. It's kind of more of like maybe take this as a little bit of a lesson. If you're the kind of and I have to remember, I went on the TV show, right? I went on the Canadian TV show, not even like American Idol. I went on Canadian TV show. And like, granted, it wasn't something that I wanted to do, and I was very intensely pushed into it. I could have more firmly said no. And that decision in itself lumps me in with the people that I'm talking about, which is how you know it's not coming from a place of judgment. If you're the kind of person that's going on a TV show like that, it's because you don't know what to do with your creativity. And you're like, oh, I'm going to rely on somebody else to help me get there. And that was ultimately, this is also why I left the team, because, I don't believe in skipping steps, and I don't believe in trying to get where you want to go faster, because I think you're going to have to retrace your steps anyway and walk it all again. So what's the point? I think people who are on those shows are like, okay, and this isn't everybody, and this isn't to say that they're not talented. It means that they don't necessarily have the confidence to know how to build a business around their creativity. And so they're like, you know what? Here's an already team ready to go to launch me, so to speak, or whether it's on American Idol or wherever it is. And it's not necessarily I have to do less work. It's that I don't have to do the work that I don't know how to do. And I think that's when people get into trouble, because everyone, of course, especially if you can actually sing, everyone's going to be like, no, I'll be the success story. I'll be the success story. And then they get on and nothing ends up happening afterwards, or not what they imagined or hoped would happen.
Right.
And I think that, that's the issue with a lot of creatives in general, in both of our industries and any creative industry you'll see, is that we're so afraid of not knowing how to do things. And instead of learning how to do it, we try to pawn it off on other people.
That's very true. I think there's a lot of steps that it takes to even get to the point where you or I are in our careers, and it's just, at the end of the day, if I were to say skip one of those, there would be trouble down the road.
Yeah.
And you can't pass that up.
No.
Now, after, even from someone who knew who you were but only got to know you recently, I remember how often I was hearing you on the radio, how many public appearances you were doing, Sens games, singing at Sens games. You were everywhere for the longest time. And I wonder, did you ever face those celebrity instances where it was like running to a car and you had people being like, Jamie.
Yeah. It's pretty funny and it's weird saying it. Absolutely, we experienced those things. I remember one specific time. I forget what city we were in. It was either out east or it was Edmonton or Calgary. It was one of those three. I know there's a lot of places out east, but maybe Halifax. Actually, no, I'm a liar. It was for We Day.
So that was in Ottawa.
No, so we did a tour with We Day because we performed at
that's right.
seven
We Day
of their shows.
isn't just one spot. Yeah.
So it was some We Day place, and we performed. And what happened was we would go out the back. All the artists would go out the back, but there was a whole bunch of kids waiting to get on their school buses, and there wasn't a front street, so they had to go in the back as well. All the buses. So me and Elijah walk out, and there's like thousands. I'm gonna say 1,000, but like probably more than that, of kids that were just like, and we like looked at them and we were like, fuck. And our car, we had our Suburban or whatever it was, and me and Elijah just had to sprint to the car with the band, and we like hopped in. And like people were screaming, and we were like, "Whoa, that's the first time experiencing that."
Oh, that's amazing.
It was pretty surreal for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that every day, but.
So Jamie.
When you say my name like that, terrifying.
Jamie. I scoured the internet trying to find some dirt on you. I went to Twitter, but you really just retweet other things.
Yeah.
Now, within the 500 tweets that you put out in your lifetime, I did find some stuff.
Have I put out 500 tweets?
I think it was like 536.
Because it used to be Elijah was ex Jamie Fine. Okay, I understand. Yeah.
So this is a segment we've been doing where I pull back old tweets from guests that we have on the show, and we kind of get them to explain. Now, we'll obviously put them on screen for everybody to see, but at one point, you tweeted a picture of yourself, Elijah, and Pierre Trudeau. Or sorry, not Pierre Trudeau. Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau, dark days. Yeah.
And you said, "Who's got the best hair?" So who has the best hair?
I think I still have to say Elijah.
Yeah, I would too.
I would say Elijah.
I would too.
But listen, Justin's got good hair. Like, it's a problem.
I think his is more about the facial structure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Good
No,
hair.
Elijah's got good hair.
Good hair.
Yeah, I'll always give him that.
The next one was you tweeted,
God, I hope I'm not scandalous.
"I have an unhealthy obsession with HomeSense."
I love a good fucking HomeSense run. Bro, have you been in that store?
I have been in HomeSense many times.
You get nothing that you need.
I mean, I definitely have something in mind usually.
Yeah.
And it's never what I want.
No. It's like Dollarama. Like,
Yeah,
you can't go in there and buy one thing.
I did buy a rug over the Christmas break from there.
The best.
But it took so long because it was like, buying a rug is not easy.
No, it's not. It's creative.
Yeah, it is creative. All right, you did a fan interaction at one point, and you had posed a question. You basically said, ask me a question, I'll answer it, right? And someone asked you, what was your biggest fear? Do you know what you said?
No. Okay, wait. Was it like materialistic fear, like an animal?
There is an animal involved, yes.
Fuck, I don't know.
You said it was spiders crawling down your mouth while you were asleep.
It's because I read. If I'm the one who tweeted that, because it might have. How long ago was that?
Uh, this is 4 years ago.
So it might have been. It might have been Elijah, but it was maybe it was one of us. I read somewhere that there's a certain amount per year when you're sleeping, and spiders
is.
crawl in your mouth. Don't
Yeah,
tell me.
it's-
I don't want to revisit. I don't want to revisit. And I was like traumatized. I was like, that's a joke. I'm ha. And then I read more about it. Update, not a joke. Terrifying. Just it makes me shiver. Can you imagine?
It happens.
Why? Like, what do they want?
They need a nest.
Like, where? There's. Oh, fuck, that's fucked up.
All right, last one here. Same fan interaction. Not the same fan, but a fan of yours said, "What do you do on your days off?" And I hope this was you.
Did I say Vampire Diaries?
Close. You said, "Cry in bed, eat pad thai, and watch Grey's Anatomy."
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that was Elijah or me, but we probably both did that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a pad thai connoisseur.
Who's got the best pad thai in the city?
I'm obsessed with band thai.
Really?
Yeah, but people think
Me
it's
too.
Okay, thank you. People think it's too sweet, but I like it.
So this goes back to where you grew up.
Yeah.
Band Thai, located in Centre Point, the west end of Ottawa. You and I both grew up in the same area. Did you go to Swartborn High School?
I wasn't. I'm Jewish. I should have, but I went to
Oh,
Maribel.
that's right.
Yeah, I went to
Yes.
Maribel.
Right. Big Jewish community at Maryville, right?
At Sir Robert's. It's right next to Craig Henry.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
true.
Yeah.
All right, now I look silly on this show.
This is ridiculous.
Maybe they'll-
Uncultured swine.
Yeah. They're going to edit dreidels coming around me or something.
I love it.
So, moving back to the career of Jamie Fine, I think it's interesting that you created a song called Sellout, because I've been there where I've felt that I sold out. I once was a photojournalist, which is a very honorable career in photography.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work, a lot of long hours. Oh, your dog is now sleeping on me.
Can somebody zoom into
We're going to
this?
zoom in on that.
For fuck's sakes, this dog's perfect.
And, you know, when I transitioned to advertising, a lot of my friends were like, man, that's such a sellout, because it's all about the money now.
Yeah.
And I think you know this too. I want to be an artist, but I want to make money. You know, I want to have financial success from this. There's nothing saying that, you know, being in video, photo, animation, you know, music or whatever doesn't mean that you can't, you know, make over $100K a year or whatever it is, right? What was the sense of sellout to you at that point?
I mean, remember that. So Elijah was a co-artist and producer on that song, or co-writer, excuse me, and producer on that song. We were in LA November 2019, and that was when I really confronted the whole team about my unhappiness. Finally, after about a year and a half of feeling really down, I finally talked to them and just said, like, I'm unhappy. I don't want to do this the way that we're doing it. And Elijah and I had so many conversations. Excuse me, and we freaking and we
That wouldn't happen if it was a
if
bubbly.
it was bubbly.
It just goes down easy.
Bubbly.
Bubbly goes down easy.
It's my motto in life. So after doing that, Elijah and I had probably a lot of vodka and a lot of beer. And we went up to the rooftop of our Airbnb in LA, and we were staring at this fucking cliche Hollywood sign. And Elijah had like come running down the stairs and was like, yo, and saying the first line of the song, which is, I sold my soul to write some songs that I don't care about. And I think for us, that line was just such a catalyst for me to like really take that and run with the top line and really write about what we were both jointly feeling at the time. I think sellout as a whole outlined all the things I said I would never do at the beginning of this.
Which were what?
I don't know how much I'll get into detail about it. I think for me, along the lines of just doing appearances that I said I would never do. And, at that point, TikTok was starting to get big. And I was seeing what was happening on TikTok, and I was like, I would never do that. Not in terms of doing TikTok is the most brilliant platform in the world.
I see you on TikTok.
Yeah, friggin' right. Like, it's brilliant. There's certain content I would never do.
To use it as the engine to get you to the next point. Yeah.
Right. And that goes back to how you come up matters. And when I wrote Sellout, I was starting to learn the lesson, how you come up matters. And like to touch on what you had just said in terms of like being the photojournalist and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with making good business decisions to get you to the next point, as long as it's not sacrificing your integrity doing it. So a lot of people will have a hard time with decisions like that. But I'm sorry, if that helps you pay your bills, pay for more equipment to get where you want to go, help you build a team to succeed in what you really want to do, I don't see that as a bad thing. I see when it gets negative, in my opinion, is when you start making decisions that are like, really? Like, that's how you want to portray yourself?
Yeah.
And that's how you want the world to see you? Just so you can get to the next level, but forget that you can't often wipe an image away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. At one point, I had kind of got approached to do some promo on Instagram, right? And at first, I was like, I'm gonna get free shit. That's a plus.
Yeah.
But I gotta throw this shit into my feed now.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like, you know what? Screw it. And I pulled them all down because I was like, this is not me. How many times have you been in that position?
I would say like a few dozen. I think for me, what I wanted to do was make sure, especially, you're right, getting free shit is the best feeling in the world. It should be the opposite, because the people who are doing well should be like, we should pay for it. You know what I mean?
It doesn't happen that way, though.
I actually started doing that, though. Recently, I'll go to a restaurant, especially in the last 2 years. This is a side note, but I'll go to a restaurant and somebody will try to give me something for free, and I'll either tip the full amount that it was supposed to be, or, you know what I mean, pay it forward in some way. Getting free shit is the best feeling. I think I started from the beginning. I was very picky with, who I wanted to represent, the things that I cared about, the things that were important to me. That was all really things that I questioned before committing to working with someone or a company. And I remember we worked with McDonald's, and like, I don't eat McDonald's. It's just not, I'm not going to badmouth McDonald's. It makes me sick. Like,
you really don't eat McDonald's?
I can't. It makes me violently ill.
So what do you...
For a few years I have...
Side question. Let's not get too off topic.
Yeah.
But what is it that you eat after a night out at the bar?
That's a really good question.
Because for me, it's McDonald's.
Is it? I wish.
Nuggies.
I actually wish. I used to be able to eat
Nuggies and dip, bro.
Nuggies and dip. Yo, that was kind of... That was sick. You should trademark McDonald's.
You should make a
Bubbly
song.
McDonald's sponsor
Bubbly
this
McDonald's
podcast.
went down the street.
Yeah. I think when we were downtown, I used to go. There's this poutine place that is right next to Lookout.
Oh yeah.
It's like a Polish sausage place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's iconic
it's
in Ottawa.
It's the hottest fries you will ever get.
Yep.
I burn my mouth every time I go there.
But you do it. And you don't stop yourself. I used to do that when I got absolutely wasted downtown. We'd walk over there and get poutine with a bunch of green olives on it, which people are going to judge me for. I know, fucked up. Just love me for me. I was drunk. I wasn't in my right mind.
Are you kidding? With green olives?
Yeah. I don't know why. It was Max. Talk to Max. And then other than that, I like crave like food. Like I want like a steak dinner after I'm drunk. Like steak and gnocchi and like asparagus.
I gotta get to Al's Steakhouse.
Literally. Like, shout out.
Shout out to Al's Steakhouse.
Shout out Al's. But like, I don't know why. I want like, or like, I don't want like pasta, but I want like a spaghetti and meatballs, which is a pasta. But I mean, I don't want like an Alfredo. I want like my mom's spaghetti and meatballs, you know?
Yeah, interesting.
I'm weird. I'm strange.
Now, I've already forgot the question
No
that I had
idea.
asked
Probably
you
was
before.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about just working with people. And
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah.
Thank God one of us knew what we were talking
I'm a
about.
professional. It's whatever. Only the finest. You like that?
So I think I would love to talk about where things are now for you. You have a new, not single, a new song,
Yeah.
a new
Yeah.
song,
Yeah.
Confessions. This goes back a little bit to Sellout because, you know, I had a chance to hear the song. It's really beautiful, and it's a different side of Jamie that I think we've seen. It's a little bit softer. You know, not all the boys are included on it. Shout out Darius, shout out Matt.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're included in the rest of the album that's coming out later. I think it was nice to see that from you, but also the message in the song is very much about moving away from, you know, the toxic relationships or the, yeah, I would say the toxic
Yeah.
relationships that we face in our lives, right?
I think it's interesting because when I wrote that song, I think a lot of people who are gonna listen to this song, are gonna connect to that aspect of it. When I first wrote Confessions, every once in a while, a song will come out of me. All of it is emotional, and all of it is really what I go through, what I see people around me go through. But every once in a while, there'll be a song that I write that like changes the way I write music, and it teaches me a lot. And it's basically like, whoa, how long have I suppressed all this? And it's like it forces me to bring it all up. Confessions was that, and I was at the producer who produced the song, buying in his place, and we were in the studio, and he put these chords. He was just playing piano. He's an amazing pianist, and he was playing, and I just started singing. And I wrote this song, and it was about everyone that I had lost in the last couple years, and whether that was people that walked away from me, people who I walked away from and let go of, people who one of my closest friends had passed away about a year and a half ago, and a lot of him is incorporated in that. It's all these things and people that are no longer in my life for whatever reason, and it was a culmination of all that. And it was this moment for me where, like, I remember just like bawling my eyes out. I'm pretty sure Bynum was at the computer, and I was like on the couch, like sobbing, writing this song. And he turned around, he was like, "Okay," and he just kept on playing. And it was like, every once in a while, I need that. I need that kind of writing session where, like, I force myself to confront things that I'm not necessarily ready to talk about, and I
Right.
put it in a song.
It's just easier to express yourself that way.
It really is. For me, anyway. I'm lucky that I have that, and I'm lucky that I am a writer as well, because it's a pretty healthy outlet, I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, you look at painters and you can tell sometimes what they're going through in life just through the paintings and, you know, the shades and the darkness to it.
Yeah.
And artists like yourself through singing, I think a lot of it comes out in songwriting. You know, you look at Taylor Swift and there's 100 songs about boyfriends that she's had. For someone like me, though, it's like, you know, I go to a corporate shoot and it's like, yeah, I'm going to really get the sadness out of me through this headshot
yeah, not
today.
per se. Not per se.
Ugh, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I still have to bottle it up a little bit and
Yeah.
throw it in the river on my own. But I would be interested to hear more about, you know, what's next for you, what's next for this album. Do we have a name?
We don't have a name yet.
Okay.
One of the things I love about this label and my A&R at this label and my new manager and you know the same band that's with me, we are all ready to just release music.
Right.
We don't want to focus too heavily on the numbers. All of that's very important, and all these things I'm about to name, I'm not alleviating the importance. But we're not going to focus so heavily on the numbers. We're not going to focus so much on forcing it to go viral, you know, and hope for the best. We're going to put out content associated with this music that we care about, that we are passionate about, and that we think is beautiful and makes sense. And it's not about, I want to say without trying too hard, it is that, but it's about putting an effort in the right places. And that's my entire team. So with the music that's about to come out, we don't just want to throw out Confessions, which will be the first one, and then if it doesn't do well, we'll change our our
strategy.
Nah, like
Yeah.
we have we have a 6-month plan, and we have music, and that's like what counts. Everything surrounding it, I have people on my team that like know how to do their jobs and do it really well and are able to execute what I'm able to produce. You know what I mean? I make the product and they're able to put out in the world. And that's what I'm kind of most excited for.
And did you get some of that recorded when you were in LA recently?
So I did. So that trip was primarily to get the hell away. But that trip was primarily writing for other artists because that's a huge part of what I do. And I got in sessions with these amazing producers and amazing artists and just kind of wrote for other people.
And I'm assuming you can't tell us about it yet.
No, I sure can't. It's what's funny is that the last year and a half, the reason I took a step back from being an artist was because I earlier on in the podcast I was saying I wanted to chase things that I was really passionate about. Songwriting is how I got in this industry. And I would rather go down. I say I'm going to say this, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, then what's the point of being an artist?" When I say I would rather go down in history as one of the greatest songwriters of all time than one of the greatest artists, I mean that. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be an artist. You know what I mean? I love singing. I love performing. Being on stage is my favorite thing in the world. But songwriting for me is like a part of me that I feel I was really born to do.
So I think my last question to you then would be, how are you able to write these songs? Because in my mind, songwriting is very daunting. Because I remember back in the day, young Chris.
I love your little anecdotes.
I would write these stupid songs like, "Hey, I'm Chris. I want to take a piss." Like it was just like me trying to rhyme the last word.
Yeah.
And I would always sound stupid. And I listen to music and I'm always like, how did they make that catch, How do you think of, because there's a lot of rules to building a song, making a song.
Well, it depends on, you're right. It depends on the genre though. Like pop music, for the first time ever, the thing that makes a pop song is the structure. Country music is on top 40 for the first time ever.
Right.
And it's because it has the same structure as a pop song. I try not to focus so much on that, especially for like when I'm making an album. I'm not focused, like the singles will show itself, you know what I mean? The ones that can make it on radio will show itself. I just write. When I was younger, I listened to a lot of hip hop and I listened to a lot of Nickelback. And his songwriting is like epic. I don't care what anybody says about Nickelback. Chad Kroeger's songwriting is epic. And that taught me a lot about how two completely different genres can achieve the same thing, which is making you feel something in a freaking song. And that's what I wanted to achieve. And me learning that rather than, and things that followed was poetry and stuff like that, where poetry often doesn't have a form. You have the haikus and the stuff like this, but a poet spews out what they're feeling. You know what I mean? Me learning how to do that made me focus less on the structure and more on what I wanted to say and how I wanted people to hear it. And that's how I write my music. I have a 15-20 minute rule where if things aren't pouring out of me by 15-20 minutes, I leave it.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
I walk
interesting.
away.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And do you put yourself in like a dark room with like one light and a bunch of beer?
Oh, Daddy. I wish I could say I had a process like that, because I'm actually pretty envious of people who have their purple. I know this producer, an engineer, and he has to have his lights with him everywhere. He travels with them in any room. He sets them up, and they're purple like lights, and it just sets up the vibe for him. No, I'm the kind of person that I'll be walking Jasper at the dog park, and
then you turn on Siri and you're just yelling at your phone.
Literally, I'll open my voice notes, because my whether it's my girlfriend or I'll walk past a conversation and somebody will say something, or I'll think about something or see something and I'll be like, that's a sick lyric, and I'll put it down. Yeah. So I have no structure in that way. It just depends. I'm picky in terms of I just have to feel it. That's the only thing for me, is that if I'm not feeling it, you're not getting a song out of me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, it was so good to have you here today.
Buddy.
I hope that, episode 112, we have you back, or hopefully we get to that point.
Always.
But everybody that's listening today, I want you to check out Jamie Fine's new single, Confessions, which drops March 24th.
March or April. It's somewhere in there.
Oh, wow. Okay, there's not a date, but it's coming, guys. That's for sure. Now, where can they find that? Is it going to drop on Spotify, Apple Music?
Yeah, it's gonna be everywhere on DSPs and streaming
Is
platforms.
there a music video that's coming out for it?
We're gonna do a visual, me with the band.
Are you hiring me for that?
Duh.
Awesome. That's all we need to know, guys. All right. This was the Creative Mindset Podcast. My guest, Jamie Fine, thank you again for coming out today. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. We are all in this together. Take care, everybody.